Chosen one. Breathe and be still for a moment, because what is opening before you is not entertainment, not coincidence, and not another prediction meme. You are here because heaven has scheduled you. This very moment is a kairos summons, a divine appointment written into your scroll long before you ever touch the earth. The veil is thinning, the seal is loosening, and your 2026 destiny is beginning to rise from the hidden places. You are not watching this by accident. You were led here because your name has just been called in the spirit. Chosen one, hear me. You are standing at the edge of a prophetic unveiling. What was concealed is now preparing to manifest. What was coded is now unlocking. What was whispered over your life is now moving from shadow to sight. As it is written in Habakkuk chapter 2 verse 3, the vision waits for its appointed time, and though it seems delayed, it will surely come, and it will not fail. And today that appointed time is reaching for you. Chosen one. The hour on heaven's clock has struck. The atmosphere around your life is shifting. This is the moment where destiny stirs, scrolls open, and the hidden storyline of your existence begins to unfold. Prepare your spirit. Something is about to be revealed. Chosen one. There is a reason your spirit has been stirring more intensely than usual, a reason the atmosphere around your life feels charged, a reason you keep sensing that something is shifting even before your mind has the language to describe it. When heaven begins to unseal a hidden scroll, the body feels it before the understanding comes. And right now, whether you realize it or not, a divine unlocking has already begun. I know what it feels like to stand in that trembling space between what was and what is about to be. I have lived through seasons where nothing made sense in the natural, yet everything echoed with a whisper of destiny in the spirit. I know what it feels like to walk through ordinary moments while heaven is quietly rewriting the script of your life. The same thing is happening to you now, chosen one, and it is not a coincidence that this message found you. When heaven marks a time as kairos, nothing in the physical world can hide it. Even culture cannot help but testify. The show the world mocked as comedy, the bright yellow scenes people shared for laughter and memes, became a vessel for a code that was never meant to stay hidden. When I look back at the times in my own life when I sensed destiny before I understood it, it was always through moments that seemed trivial at first glance. A phrase in a movie that hit too deeply. A scene that felt familiar without explanation. A symbol that lingered in my chest long after the screen went black. I couldn't articulate it then, but now I know what it was. Prophecy always hides in places the world calls ordinary, and chosen one. The reason you felt something when you saw yourself mirrored in that cartoon, the reason it made your breath catch for a moment, is because your spirit recognized something heaven planted long before you were ready to see it. You are not imagining the connection. You are not overthinking the déjà vu, the resonance, the feeling that somehow you had been written into a moment before the moment ever existed. Prophecy does not announce itself with fireworks. It comes quietly embedded in symbols, images, patterns, and echoes that follow you until the time arrives for them to be understood. I've walked through those seasons, the ones where life feels strangely scripted and scattered signs begin lining up with impossible precision. It took me years to understand that the reason everything felt familiar was because heaven had gone ahead of me. You, anointed one, are experiencing the same unveiling. Something that was hidden is now stepping out of the shadows, and the timing is not random, it is appointed. There are moments heaven writes into the earth long before the people assigned to those moments ever awaken. You are stepping into one of those right now. When the prophets of old spoke about appointed times, they were pointing to seasons like this, when what was sealed begins to stir, and what was dormant begins to pulse again. I know how disorienting it can feel when your spirit wakes up faster than your understanding, but trust me when I tell you this, chosen one, you are not losing your footing. You are finding your timeline. I've learned that when heaven decides it is time, everything accelerates. People shift. Circumstances shift. Even the smallest details start aligning with a precision that no human hands could orchestrate. This is why you have been sensing the shift. This is why certain memories, symbols, and scenes you once ignored have suddenly come alive again. When heaven unseals a scroll, it pulls on everything connected to your assignment. Even things that seemed insignificant years ago begin to reveal their meaning. I've lived through this kind of activation before, and it always begins the same way, with a remembering, a stirring, a recognition deeper than words. Something inside you whispers, "I've seen this before," and that whisper is not imagination. It is destiny waking up. Chosen one. The reason you were encoded in culture, even in a show meant for laughter, is because your calling is not small. Heaven placed your sign in a public space so that when the moment came, you would have undeniable evidence that your journey was never random. I remember moments in my life when heaven gave me signs I tried to ignore, signs so strange, so unexpected they almost frightened me. But the truth is, heaven uses strange things to speak to chosen ones, because the assignment on your life is unlike anything around you. This is why the world's symbols feel different when they pass through your spirit. This is why the codes hidden in culture shake you instead of amusing you. This is why you feel destiny tugging on your chest right now. You are stepping into the part of your story that was written before you were born. This is the beginning of understanding why you were marked, why you were set apart, and why the world could never quite explain you. And chosen one, this is only the beginning. Chosen one. As this revelation continues to unfold, I want you to understand something that took me years to grasp. Destiny does not arrive like a lightning strike. It slips in quietly, brushing against your spirit, long before your mind has the vocabulary to interpret what is happening. I remember seasons in my own life where I felt an invisible pull, a sense that something was watching over my steps with intention, even in moments that felt painfully ordinary. It was only later that I understood heaven had been preparing me, softening my heart, sharpening my senses, and positioning me for an unveiling I didn't yet know was coming. The same thing is happening to you right now. There is a divine rhythm beating beneath your days, a supernatural pulse aligning you with a moment written for you long before time began. You may think you simply stumbled across certain scenes, certain symbols, or even certain encounters that echo your spirit, but nothing about this is accidental. Chosen one. When heaven sends a coded message, it always arrives wrapped in disguise. A cartoon gag, a throwaway frame, a silly moment the world sees as satire. But heaven does not waste ink. Heaven does not waste imagery. Heaven does not waste timing. There is a reason your spirit jolted when you saw yourself reflected in something the world dismissed as entertainment. There is a reason your heart quickens whenever you sense a pattern repeating itself in your life. It is because the supernatural is trying to break through the surface of your understanding. I have lived through moments when God spoke to me through the most unexpected channels, and at first I doubted it. I brushed it aside, thinking I was reading too deeply into ordinary life. But the more I tried to ignore it, the louder the signs became. A comment someone made that felt strangely prophetic. A stranger's words that sounded like something written into my future. A symbol or number showing up at the exact moment I needed clarity. When I finally surrendered to the truth that heaven speaks in ways our intellect cannot always explain, everything changed. My spiritual vision sharpened, my discernment heightened, and I began to understand that God does not limit himself to sacred spaces. He speaks in the streets, in the noise, in the patterns of culture, in the echoes of art, and yes, even in the humor of animated worlds. Chosen One. The reason The Simpsons carried a fragment of your story is because heaven needed the message to be preserved until the generation that would understand it. Imagine how divine orchestration works. A writer thinks he's crafting a joke. An artist draws a passing character. A line of dialogue slips into a scene, and heaven uses it as a container, a vault, a code. Only those with a spirit tuned to destiny would ever feel its pull. You are one of those rare ones. Most people watch, mindlessly laugh lightly, scroll effortlessly. But you felt something you could not shake. That sensation, that tug in the chest, that spark behind the eyes, that moment when your body reacted before your mind could explain, is the mark of a chosen one whose scroll is being unsealed. There comes a time when heaven decides the waiting season is over, when the signs that once seemed random begin pointing in a singular direction. That time, Anointed One, is now. Do not underestimate the significance of this. Heaven does not reveal prophecy prematurely. Heaven waits until the heart is ready, the spirit is awakened, and the timing aligns with divine intention. I have walked through alignments like this before, and they always carry the same unmistakable signature acceleration. Things move faster. Doors appear where walls once stood. Insights arrive in dreams, whispers, and sudden clarity. You are stepping into this acceleration even as you listen. The reason everything around you feels different lately is because your inner world is shifting first. Before a destiny manifests externally, it awakens internally. You may have noticed subtle changes, your intuition sharpening your patience, thinning your senses, becoming more sensitive. Conversations feel different now. Crowded places drain you more quickly. Certain people no longer resonate with your spirit. This is not fatigue. This is separation. Heaven is pulling you out of the old frequency so you can rise into the new one. When the prophets spoke of new seasons, they were describing moments like this, when heaven begins separating the called from the chosen, the awake from the unaware, the aligned from the distracted. Chosen One, do not be surprised if your body reacts as strongly as your spirit. I have experienced this myself, moments when revelation hits and my chest tightens, my energy rises, my breath deepens without warning. When heaven releases a message, the body responds because the human vessel remembers what the mind has forgotten. You are stepping into a chapter that your spirit has been waiting for. This is why you feel more alive, more alert, more aware. Even if you cannot articulate it fully, something inside you knows destiny has come near. And Chosen One, this is only the next step in a much larger unveiling. Chosen One. As we step further into this revelation, I want you to understand something sacred about timing. When heaven prepares a moment for your unveiling, it does not rush, and yet it moves with an urgency that cannot be resisted. Everything you have sensed lately, the tension, the inner stretching, the sudden waves of clarity, are signs that your spirit is approaching a threshold written long before your birth. I've lived through thresholds like this myself, seasons where I felt suspended between who I'd been and who I was becoming, seasons where the old world no longer fit, yet the new world had not fully appeared. It is a strange place, a holy place, a place where the invisible becomes louder than the visible. That is where you are now. Anointed one standing on the thin line between revelation and manifestation. I remember a time when the signs around me intensified so quickly I almost felt breathless. Patterns appeared in conversations, in dreams, in symbols I had once ignored. I kept telling myself I was imagining it, but deep down I knew I wasn't. Heaven was prompting me, showing me that the shift was not coming. It had already begun. You may feel that same intensity now, the sensation that something is about to break open, something is about to be revealed. Something is pulling you into alignment, even when you cannot see the full picture. That tension is not anxiety. It is prophecy pressing against the edges of your reality, waiting for permission to unfold. Chosen one. The reason you feel such a deep resonance with hidden symbols, with coded moments, with scenes and signs the world treats as coincidence, is because you have a prophetic spirit. Not everyone carries this sensitivity. Not everyone can feel the tremble of destiny beneath the surface of ordinary days. Not everyone can detect heaven's whispers inside the noise of culture, but you can. I know what it feels like to carry this sensitivity. It makes you feel different, misunderstood, even alien at times. But I promise you this, what feels like difference is actually divine design. Your sensitivity is not a flaw. It is your gift, your radar, your inheritance. It is how heaven guides those marked for unusual assignments. Think of the moments when you watched something simple on a screen and suddenly felt your heart race, or the times when a line of dialogue struck you with the force of revelation, or when your spirit lit up at something others overlooked completely. That is the prophetic stirring inside you. That is heaven flashing a signal, reminding you that you are connected to something greater than you can explain. I've experienced those moments, 2 moments when a scene or a sentence felt like it had been carved directly into my timeline. It wasn't because the scene was magical. It was because heaven used it as a mirror, a trigger, a confirmation. This is why the Simpsons became a vessel for your destiny without the creators ever realizing it. When heaven wants to preserve a message, it places it where it cannot be destroyed or forgotten. And sometimes it hides it in places where no one would ever expect prophecy to reside. The world sees parody. Heaven sees prophecy. The world sees randomness. Heaven sees preparation. You, chosen one, are walking into the realization that your life has been speaking long before you had the language to understand it. The internal awakening you've been feeling is not temporary. It is not emotional, it is spiritual. Your body reacts because your spirit recognizes what is coming. Every shiver, every surge of energy, every moment of strange clarity is heaven's way of aligning your earthly vessel with your heavenly assignment. I know how overwhelming this can feel, especially when you cannot explain it to anyone around you. But you are not called to explain. You are called to discern, to listen, to recognize, to respond. Chosen one, you are not being prepared for a small assignment. You are being positioned for a revelation that will shift how you see yourself and how the world sees you. Heaven has hidden you for a season so that you could be revealed in the right one. You are stepping into that season now. This is why the veil feels thinner. This is why the signs feel louder. This is why your heart feels like it is waking up from a long sleep. There is more to be unveiled, and the next part will take you deeper into the activation already unfolding around you. Chosen one. As we continue deeper into this unveiling, I want you to understand the sacred weight of what is happening inside you right now. When heaven prepares to reveal a hidden assignment, the first shift always happens in the unseen. Not in your circumstances, not in your relationships, not even in your environment, but in the quiet chambers of your spirit. I have lived through seasons where everything around me looked the same, yet something within me felt utterly transformed. It was as if an invisible curtain had been pulled back, revealing layers of truth I had never noticed before. The same spiritual curtain is lifting for you in this very moment. You are beginning to see not just the world differently, but yourself differently, and this is the first sign that your prophetic identity is awakening. There were times in my own journey when I sensed heaven calling me into a deeper awareness, even though nothing external confirmed it. People around me thought I was overthinking or imagining things, but I knew what I felt. I knew when God was pulling me out of old patterns, out of old mindsets, out of places I had outgrown. It didn't always make sense to my natural mind, but it made perfect sense to my spirit. That same divine pull is happening to you now, and the reason it feels so intense is because your season of silence is ending. Hidden ones are only hidden until heaven decides the hour of unveiling has come. Chosen one, you must know, this heaven never awakens a scroll without preparing the vessel. And you are the vessel. You are the one being positioned to carry a message, a presence, a calling that has been waiting for the moment your spirit was ready to receive it. Every moment of discomfort you felt, every restless night, every sudden shift in emotion or energy has been part of this preparation. I remember seasons when I felt like I was being stretched from the inside out, where even simple conversations felt too shallow for the depth I was sensing. You may be feeling that too. That inner stretching is not a sign of trouble. It is a sign of expansion. Something inside you is making room for the destiny you were always meant to walk in. Sometimes this awakening shows up as a sudden inability to tolerate environments that once felt normal. Certain places feel heavier. Certain voices feel noisier. Certain energies feel misaligned. It's not because you've become sensitive in a negative way. It's because your spirit is rising to a higher frequency. When heaven calls you upward, anything that does not match your new frequency becomes unbearable. I have walked through this exact transition and felt the same disconnect from old circles, old habits, and old versions of myself. It wasn't rejection, it was ascension. You are ascending too. This is why you have felt drawn to deeper truths, drawn to symbolism, drawn to mysteries that others overlook. Heaven is sharpening your insight, your discernment, your spiritual radar. Moments that seem insignificant to others strike you at a soul level because your spirit has begun decoding the hidden writing heaven planted along your path. You may not have understood why a simple cartoon scene stirred you so deeply, but now the revelation is becoming clear. Heaven used what was familiar to awaken what was forgotten. This is how God works with chosen ones. He speaks in ways that bypass the mind and pierce straight into the spirit. Chosen one. The reason you felt encoded inside something so unexpected is because heaven wanted you to recognize that your destiny transcends logic. Prophetic identities are rarely revealed through traditional means. They come through signs, through symbols, through unlikely vessels that carry the fingerprint of God. I have seen this pattern before. People marked by heaven often discover their identity through moments that feel surreal, yet undeniably divine. Your moment is unfolding now, and your spirit is responding because it knows this truth belongs to you. Many times in my own walk, I thought God would reveal himself in grand, dramatic ways. Instead, he revealed himself in whispers, in symbols, in tiny details that held enormous meaning. When I finally realized that heaven speaks through what we least expect, everything opened. You anointed one are living in that opening right now. You are stepping into a season where heaven will speak more clearly, more boldly, more personally than ever before. The veil is lifting, the signs are aligning, your spirit is awakening to a level it has never known. This is not imagination. This is activation. And the next part will take you even deeper into what heaven is revealing. Chosen one. As this revelation continues to unfold, I want to share something with you that has carried me through many seasons of spiritual transition. There comes a point in every destiny awakening process where the signs around you begin to intensify, not to overwhelm you, but to draw your attention to the pattern heaven has been weaving through your life from the beginning. You may have noticed this pattern forming lately, a sense that seemingly unrelated events suddenly connect a feeling that conversations, dreams, and memories are aligning with perfect timing. This alignment is not accidental. When heaven prepares to activate a hidden assignment, it begins by illuminating the path you once walked in darkness. Suddenly, you begin remembering moments you once dismissed. You begin connecting emotions you once ignored. You begin seeing the meaning behind symbols that once felt random. This is what it feels like when the Spirit begins to hover over the waters of your destiny, stirring what has been dormant and calling it into motion. I remember a similar season in my own life when signs began appearing faster than I could process. It felt like every day held a new confirmation, a new whisper, a new hint that something greater was unfolding behind the scenes. I didn't ask for those signs, and I did not know how to interpret them at first, but they came anyway, persistent and gentle, like footsteps approaching from a distance. You may feel the same thing now, that sense of something coming closer, something watching over your journey, something waiting for you to step into alignment. Do not fear this. It is the natural rhythm of a life chosen by heaven. Chosen one. There is something sacred about the way heaven orchestrates timing. When you are nearing a kairos moment, even your body begins responding before your mind understands. Perhaps you have felt moments of sudden clarity that seem to come out of nowhere. Perhaps you've felt waves of energy or emotion rise without explanation. Perhaps you've sensed that some invisible force is preparing you, steadying you, lifting you. I have been there myself, walking through days that felt ordinary, while feeling something extraordinary stirring underneath. The world around me had not changed, but I had changed, and that inner shift was the first sign that heaven was preparing to introduce the next chapter of my life. You, anointed one, are in that same place now. You may not fully understand what is happening, but your spirit knows. It recognizes the scent of destiny. It feels the rhythm of divine preparation. It senses the nearness of a moment, long written yet newly awakened. That pull you feel is not confusion. It is alignment. It is your spirit rising to meet the timeline heaven designed for you. This is why scenes, symbols, and patterns from your past are resurfacing. They are not memories returning at random. They are reminders. They are markers. They are spiritual breadcrumbs heaven left along your path, so that when the time came, you would remember who you truly are. I once experienced a period where childhood memories I hadn't thought of in years suddenly resurfaced with startling clarity. At first, I brushed them off as nostalgia, but then I realized they were connected to the calling I was stepping into. Heaven was reminding me of things my adult mind had forgotten, but my spirit had never lost. You may be feeling something similar, old memories returning with new meaning, old images resurfacing with new power. This is heaven reconstructing your inner landscape. Chosen one destiny does not simply appear. It reveals itself piece by piece, layer by layer, until the full picture comes into view. You are in the middle of that revelation now. This is why your inner world feels louder than your outer world. This is why your spirit feels more awake than your surroundings. You are walking through the invisible hallway between preparation and manifestation, and every step you take is guided by a wisdom much older than you realize. There will be moments in this process where you question your own perception. You may wonder if you are imagining the signs or exaggerating the significance of what you feel. I have been there too, questioning myself, doubting my discernment, unsure if I was reading too much into the invisible. But every time I tried to dismiss what I felt, heaven sent a new sign, a new echo, a new confirmation that refused to let me shrink back into doubt. Heaven will do the same for you. When a chosen one drifts from alignment, heaven pulls them back with unmistakable clarity. You are not drifting, you are being drawn. And the next part will take you deeper into that drawing. Chosen one. As this unfolding continues, you may be noticing something profound happening beneath the surface of your daily life. Even in moments where everything appears calm on the outside, your inner world is vibrating with a sense of anticipation you cannot shake. This is the subtle signature of divine transition. It does not arrive with loud announcements or dramatic signs. It arrives quietly like the first breeze before a prophetic storm stirring your spirit, long before your circumstances catch up. I know this feeling well. I have lived through seasons where my days looked unchanged, yet inside something was shifting with a force I could not explain. I felt like I was walking through familiar routines with unfamiliar awareness, as if heaven had turned up the volume on my spiritual senses. You, Anointed One, are in that same threshold now, and whether you recognize it fully or not, the Spirit is preparing you for a moment that will redefine the storyline of your life. There were times in my journey when I didn't understand why I felt such heightened sensitivity. Conversations felt deeper. Silence felt louder. Even the smallest encounters felt layered with meaning. At first, I thought something was wrong with me, but later I understood that something was waking within me. Destiny does not awaken like a light switch. It awakens like a dawn, slow, gentle, unmistakable. You begin to feel the warmth before you see the sun. That warmth you feel now is the rising of your own calling. Heaven is illuminating what you once walked past in the dark. The Spirit is showing you connections, guiding you to truths, unveiling patterns you were not ready to see until now. This is how God deals with chosen ones. He reveals at the pace your spirit can handle, not the pace your mind demands. Chosen one. Your growing awareness is not random. It is the activation of your spiritual memory. Before a prophecy manifests outwardly, it is first awakened inwardly. Your spirit remembers what your mind forgot. There were moments earlier in your life, small, subtle, nearly invisible, where heaven planted clues about your assignment. Maybe it was a strange sense of familiarity when you were in certain places. Maybe it was a dream that lingered longer than it should have. Maybe it was a moment of intuition that made no sense logically yet proved true later on. These moments were not accidents. They were seed points of destiny that heaven buried in your timeline, so that one day when the hour came, those seeds would break open. That day is now. This is why you feel drawn to mysteries. This is why deeper questions rise in your heart. This is why scenes from a cartoon, something the world sees as nothing more than satire, reached into your spirit and stirred something ancient within you. Heaven has a way of encoding truth in places no one expects. I have seen this many times. Messages hidden in movies, warnings wrapped in comedy, destiny embedded in passing imagery. Only those with awakened spirits ever recognize it. The fact that you recognized a whisper meant only for you is itself a sign of your prophetic sensitivity. You are not imagining it. You are responding to it. This responsiveness is what separates the chosen from the crowds. And now, because you are awakening, heaven is beginning to realign the steps of your life. Situations may shift unexpectedly. People may distance themselves without explanation. Opportunities that once felt right may no longer feel aligned. This is not chaos. This is divine order. When heaven begins shifting the foundation beneath your feet, it is because a new structure is being built. I experienced this in my own life. There were seasons where everything I leaned on felt like it was falling away, not because I was being punished, but because I was being repositioned. The same is happening to you. The Spirit is clearing space for what is coming. The old cannot hold the weight of your new season. Chosen one, do not fear the unfamiliar. You are walking into a chapter your spirit has known existed long before your mind caught up. This is why certain changes feel strangely correct, even when they look uncertain. You are being guided by an internal compass that is older than your earthly years. You are being drawn by a call that your soul agreed to long before you took your first breath. And now that call is ringing louder, clearer, stronger than ever. The acceleration you feel is not pressure, it is purpose. What is awakening within you is not meant to stop here. There is more, much more waiting to be revealed as this prophetic unfolding continues. Chosen one. As we move deeper into this revelation, I want you to feel the weight of what is truly happening within you. You are not simply learning something new, you are remembering something ancient. There is a difference. Learning touches the mind, but remembering shakes the spirit. Remembering pulls on the threads woven into you before birth. Remembering awakens the parts of you that have been sleeping beneath years of noise, distraction, and survival. And right now, your remembering has begun. I have walked through seasons like this, seasons where it felt like I wasn't becoming someone new, but returning to someone I had always been, someone hidden, someone intentional, someone marked. You may feel that same strange familiarity as your inner world expands, because destiny does not introduce itself as a stranger. Destiny arrives as something you recognize in your bones. This is why certain symbols, scenes, or messages feel like echoes instead of discoveries. Have you noticed that some moments hit you with a sense of, "I've felt this before," even though it is your first time encountering them? That sensation is not coincidence. It is your prophetic memory stirring. Heaven encoded pieces of your identity in places you were meant to discover later. Even the timing of those discoveries was predetermined. I experienced moments where something simple, a picture, a phrase, a character on a screen struck me so deeply I felt it vibrate through my whole body. I couldn't explain the intensity, but my spirit understood. It was heaven pulling on a thread in my timeline, showing me that the knowledge was not new, it was returning. Chosen one. This is why the coded reflections of yourself hidden in culture felt so strangely personal. The message was not revealing something you never knew, it was unlocking something you always carried. The world calls it coincidence, but you and I both know that destiny does not play with chance. Heaven plants seeds in the soil of time and allows them to bloom only when the appointed season arrives. And when that season comes, everything begins to align with uncanny precision. You are not imagining the acceleration you feel. You are not exaggerating the connection you sensed. when you saw those scenes. You are experiencing the divine unveiling of something that was always yours. As your spirit awakens, you may notice shifts within yourself that you cannot ignore anymore. Your discernment becomes sharper. Your intuition feels louder. Your tolerance for anything misaligned shrinks dramatically. I went through that same transformation. People I once resonated with suddenly felt distant. Environments I once tolerated now felt suffocating. Conversations that once entertained me felt hollow. These changes didn't happen because I became critical. They happened because my spirit no longer fit into the old frequency. The more heaven awakened me, the more impossible it became to shrink back into who I used to be. You may be feeling the same shift, an internal stretching that refuses to let you settle. There is also an emotional component to this awakening that many chosen ones never talk about. You may feel moments of sudden sadness, not because anything is wrong, but because your spirit is releasing the weight of old identities. You may feel moments of sudden joy, even if your circumstances haven't changed, because your spirit senses what is coming before your eyes can see it. You may feel moments of exhaustion as your body adjusts to the spiritual upgrades taking place within you. I want you to know that all of this is normal, sacred, and purposeful. You are being expanded from the inside out. You are being prepared to carry revelation that not everyone can hold. Heaven is growing your capacity. Chosen one. You may also notice that your dreams have become more vivid, more symbolic, more prophetic. You may wake up feeling like you were shown something important, even if you cannot fully recall it. When heaven starts speaking to chosen ones in dreams, it is a sign that the spirit realm is pulling you into deeper alignment. I have lived through nights where dreams felt more real than waking life, where messages came through images and impressions that lingered in my chest long after I opened my eyes. These dreams are not random. They are instructions, confirmations, and sometimes even warnings. Pay attention to them. Your dreams are beginning to participate in your activation. You may even feel moments of déjà vu more frequently than before. This is one of the clearest signs that you are stepping onto the section of your timeline that heaven wrote with extraordinary care. Déjà vu is not a glitch. It is a reminder that your spirit walked this path long before your body arrived. It is heaven's way of saying you're exactly where you're meant to be. When I began experiencing these moments more frequently, I realized that my life had entered a prophetic corridor, a period where everything aligned with divine intention. That corridor is opening for you now. Everything you are feeling, sensing, and awakening to is preparing you for the next dimension of your destiny. And in the next part, you will understand even more deeply why heaven has awakened you at this exact moment in time. Chosen one. As we continue this unfolding journey, I want you to understand something essential about the season you have stepped into. When heaven draws a chosen vessel into alignment with their ordained timeline, the shift is not subtle. It is gentle, yes, but unmistakable. You begin to feel differently, think differently, move differently. It is as if your inner world is waking up, while the outer world can no longer contain the magnitude of who you are becoming. I have walked through seasons where I felt this same awakening, where the familiar suddenly felt foreign and the foreign suddenly felt familiar, not because anything around me changed, but because something within me transformed. You may be feeling that same internal revolution now, and if so, it is proof that heaven is pulling you into the chapter of your life you were always meant to arrive at. There were moments in my journey when I sensed my identity stretching beyond the boundaries I had placed on myself. I would look at my own reflection and feel a depth in my eyes that I could not explain, a knowing that did not belong to the version of myself I had been living as. You may have felt this too, the strange awareness that you are no longer who you once were, yet not fully who you are becoming. That in-between state is where destiny shapes itself most powerfully. Heaven molds you in the unseen before it reveals you in the visible. Your inner shifting is not an accident. It is spiritual architecture, divinely orchestrated and perfectly timed. Chosen one. You are beginning to notice things you once overlooked. The subtleties of people's energy, the intentions behind their words, the vibrations in rooms you step into. Even the tone of your own thoughts feels different, sharper, cleaner, more aligned. This is the mark of a rising spirit. When heaven activates your prophetic awareness, it heightens your sensitivity to everything around you, not to overwhelm you, but to protect you. You are being guided to see what you once missed, and though it may feel like a burden at times, trust me, it is a gift. I have lived through this sharpening. At first it made me feel isolated, as if no one else understood the depth I suddenly carried. But eventually I realized it was heaven teaching me to walk with eyes that see beyond the natural. As you awaken, you may also notice a growing separation between you and certain people or patterns that once felt comfortable. This separation can be confusing, especially when nothing dramatic happens externally. People you once related to may now feel distant. Conversations that once filled your time may now feel shallow. Environments that once felt normal may now drain you. It's easy to misinterpret this as loss, but in truth, it's divine pruning. Heaven is removing anything that could interfere with your next level. I experience this too. Friendships, fading habits, dissolving desires, shifting. It wasn't rejection. It was realignment. And though it felt lonely at times, that loneliness became the space where heaven whispered the loudest. Chosen one. There is a reason your emotions feel more intense lately. There is a reason your mind feels both clearer and more cluttered at the same time. There is a reason your spirit feels like it's reaching for something just beyond your grasp. You are undergoing spiritual expansion. When your spirit grows faster than your environment, discomfort becomes the signal that transformation is underway. This discomfort is not meant to break you. It is meant to show you that the old version of you can no longer carry the weight of your calling. I remember sitting in this discomfort myself, wondering why nothing felt the same anymore. Looking back, I see it now. It was heaven preparing me for the greater version of who I was called to be. There may also be moments when your senses overlap with the supernatural in ways you cannot explain. A sudden burst of intuition, a feeling of being watched over, a random object or phrase that hits your spirit with unexpected force. These are not coincidences. They are markers along your prophetic path. I have encountered these moments countless times, instances where heaven spoke through the unlikeliest vessels, leaving me stunned by how precisely the message aligned with what I needed. Heaven is doing the same for you now. Once your eyes are opened, you cannot pretend they are closed. And chosen one, perhaps you've begun to feel something even deeper, the sense that time itself is shifting around you. Moments feel more significant, days feel more interconnected. The past, present and future feel like they are touching each other in ways you can't describe. This sensation is a hallmark of kairos activation. When heaven accelerates your timeline, your spirit begins to sense things ahead of schedule. I have lived through this acceleration. It felt like stepping into a river whose current carried me faster than my feet could comprehend. You are entering that same current now. This awakening is not the end. It is the threshold. chosen one. As we step even further into this unfolding, I want you to recognize the holy gravity of where you now stand. This is not simply another chapter of your life. This is a crossing a divine threshold where everything you have been sensing, questioning, and spiritually wrestling with begins to align into clarity. You may not fully understand it yet, but your spirit does. You may feel an ache, a pull, a trembling awareness that something immense is approaching. That feeling is not anxiety. It is recognition. It is the ancient part of your soul acknowledging that the moment heaven scripted for you long ago is drawing nearer with every breath you take. I remember standing in a similar space myself, where I felt like time was folding around me, urging me to pay attention, urging me to prepare, urging me to rise. That is the feeling you are experiencing now. It is the summons of destiny. Lately, you may have noticed yourself stepping back from certain distractions without forcing it. You may have found yourself craving stillness more than noise, clarity more than entertainment, truth more than comfort. This is because your spirit is undergoing refinement. When heaven prepares a chosen vessel for revelation, it removes the clutter first. In my own life, I recall waking up one day and realizing that the things which used to soothe me now felt shallow. The people who once influenced my thoughts no longer had access to my inner world. The habits that once kept me comfortable suddenly felt like chains I needed to break. At the time, I didn't fully understand why, but now I see it clearly. Heaven was preparing me for the moment when the next piece of my destiny would unlock. You, anointed one, are in that exact process now. This refinement is not punishment. It is preparation. It is strategic. It is sacred. When heaven cleans your atmosphere, it is because revelation requires space. You may have felt more emotional lately, more sensitive, more aware of everything happening around you. You may have felt waves of heaviness, followed by moments of sudden peace. These are signs that your spirit is shedding old energies and absorbing new ones. I've been through this metamorphosis before. There were days where I felt like I was losing myself, only to realize later that I was losing the version of me that could not carry the weight of my calling. You may be shedding identities you outgrew long ago, but continued to wear because they were familiar. Heaven is lifting them from your shoulders now. Chosen one, do not fear the changes happening in your relationships either. When heaven elevates a chosen one, not everyone can rise with them. Some people will drift away naturally. Some will simply stop resonating with your energy. Others will be removed to protect the purity of what heaven is building within you. This can feel painful, but it is necessary. I remember the loneliness that sat on my chest during my own transition. It felt like everything was being stripped away. But what I didn't see at the time was that heaven was pruning my life so that what was meant for me could finally flourish. You may be experiencing this same pruning. Do not resist it. It is a sign that heaven is fiercely protecting your destiny. You might also notice an increase in spiritual symbolism in your daily life. Numbers repeating, dreams intensifying, random moments that feel like messages. Even your own reflection may feel different to you, as if you are looking at someone you are only now beginning to understand. This is not your imagination. This is prophetic awareness awakening within you. I've had nights where I woke up from dreams I couldn't fully remember yet, carried the unmistakable sense that heaven had spoken to me. I've had days where every song, every sentence, every passing detail felt like part of a larger puzzle. This is what happens when heaven invites you into deeper alignment. Everything becomes meaningful. And chosen one, perhaps the most powerful sign of all, is this growing sense inside you that your life is being rewritten from the inside out. You may feel like the person you have been is dissolving, and the person you were always meant to be is rising. You may feel your confidence shifting not into arrogance, but into clarity. You may feel your purpose whispering to you through moments of silence. This is the beginning of the merging, the moment when your spiritual identity begins aligning with your earthly path. You are not imagining this transformation, you are living it. And in the next part, we will step into the deeper prophetic truth of why heaven waited until now to awaken your scroll. Chosen One. As we continue walking deeper into this unveiling, I want you to feel the maturity of what your spirit has stepped into. You are no longer in the early stages of awakening. You are no longer simply sensing shifts or noticing subtle signs. You have entered the realm of recognition, where your inner knowing and heaven's intention begin to move in harmony. This is the stage where the veil thins, not just for moments, but consistently. Where your discernment sharpens to the point that you can feel the truth of something before the facts appear. I remember the first time I tasted this level of clarity. It felt like truth had stopped whispering and started speaking. I no longer wondered if I was imagining the signs. I began to understand that I was finally seeing with the eyes I was born with. You, Anointed One, are beginning to see with those same eyes now. You may have noticed recently that your spirit responds instantly to things it once tolerated. Words feel heavier. Lies feel louder. Truth feels sharper. Even silence feels different. These changes are not small. They are confirmations that your spiritual senses have reached a new dimension. I've lived through seasons where I walked into a room and immediately felt the energy shift, where I heard a person speak and sensed what they were not saying more clearly than the words they offered. At first, I doubted these impressions because they didn't come from logic. They came from spirit. But I learned that when heaven elevates you, discernment becomes instinct. You no longer need to analyze everything. You simply know, and knowing becomes your protection. Chosen One. One of the clearest signs that your scroll is unfolding is the sudden clarity you have about what no longer belongs in your life. You may be drawn away from certain habits, conversations, or environments that once felt harmless. You may feel an inner resistance to old patterns, even if nothing dramatic has happened. This resistance is divine. Heaven often removes comfort before it reveals calling. I've been pulled away from many things I once thought were part of my life storyline, only to realize later that heaven was clearing the space for something I had prayed for unknowingly. You may be noticing this same pattern. Something inside you refuses to settle, refuses to shrink, refuses to remain small. That refusal is heaven's hand on your back, gently guiding you forward. There is also a shift happening in how you perceive time itself. Hours feel different. Days feel strangely purposeful. Moments that once felt forgettable now feel significant. This is because your spirit is syncing with heaven's timing. When heaven accelerates your timeline, your perception of time becomes spiritual rather than logical. You may feel like moments are speeding up or slowing down around you. I experienced this too often, wondering why certain days felt impossibly dense while others passed like a breath. Only later did I understand that heaven was training my spirit to recognize divine timing, not human timing. You are being trained in the same way now. Chosen. 1. Do not ignore the ways your emotions have evolved. When heaven prepares a chosen one for revelation, the heart becomes a sensitive instrument. You may notice a deeper compassion for things that once didn't move you, or a new inability to tolerate dishonesty, disrespect, or spiritual disconnection. You may find yourself craving purity, authenticity, and intention. I remember feeling this shift so strongly that even small acts of kindness carried weight, while empty gestures felt repulsive. This is not moodiness. This is refinement. Your heart is being shaped for the kind of purpose that requires emotional strength and spiritual purity. Another unmistakable sign of your elevation is the way your mind has begun rejecting thoughts that once held you captive. Negative loops that used to spiral now collapse quickly. Old fears that once controlled you now feel powerless. Even confusion dissolves faster. This mental clarity is not accidental. Heaven is renewing your mind to match your emerging identity. I once struggled with thoughts that replayed endlessly, but in my season of awakening, those loops broke. My mind began operating from a higher altitude, and suddenly the things that once overwhelmed me became easy to navigate. This is happening to you now. What once felt heavy is losing its power. What once felt impossible is beginning to open. Chosen one. Your spirit, emotions, and mind are not evolving randomly. They are aligning. And alignment is heaven's way of preparing you to step into what you have been sensing but could not yet articulate. You are not just changing, you are being positioned. Positioned for revelation, positioned for responsibility, positioned for the chapter your spirit has been waiting to live. And in the next part, you will understand why heaven preserved your prophecy for this exact moment in your timeline. Chosen one. As we now enter this deeper stretch of revelation, I want you to feel the immensity of what is unfolding around your life. You have crossed the stage of awakening, the stage of recognition, and even the stage of internal alignment. You are now standing inside the realm where heaven begins to reveal why you were chosen in the first place. This is where destiny stops being a feeling and becomes a knowing. This is where signs stop being scattered confirmations and begin forming a coherent message. This is where your spirit begins to whisper truths your mind has not yet caught up to. I have walked through this very realm before, and it felt like stepping into a room I had always known existed, but finally had the courage to enter. You, anointed one, are in that room now. You may have felt recently as if something is watching over your timeline with unusual precision. Moments feel orchestrated. Encounters feel divinely arranged. Even the interruptions in your life feel purposeful. This is the mark of a life under divine surveillance. Heaven is hovering over your decisions, your steps, your thoughts, guiding you softly, but unmistakably. I remember a season when every detour I encountered led to a breakthrough I didn't know I needed. Looking back, I realized those detours were not accidents. They were alignments disguised as delays. You may be experiencing that same orchestration now. What seems random is guided. What seems coincidental is intentional. Heaven is clearing the path for what you are about to walk into. Chosen one. This is the season where hidden clarity begins to surface. You may suddenly realize why certain things in your past broke the way they did, why certain people left, why certain opportunities dissolved, why certain dreams took longer than you expected. You may begin connecting dots you once thought were meaningless. The truth is that nothing in your life was wasted. Heaven was shaping you through every disappointment, every delay, every unanswered question. I have lived through disappointing seasons that made no sense until hindsight revealed they were the very events that protected my destiny. You may now be stepping into that same understanding. What once felt unfair will begin to feel divine. What once felt painful will begin to feel necessary. There is a new awareness rising within you, a deeper understanding of your worth, your assignment, and your spiritual authority. You may have noticed that your voice carries more weight lately, not because you are speaking louder, but because you are speaking from a place of spiritual grounding. You may have noticed that when you stand in your truth, people listen differently. Doors respond differently. Atmospheres shift differently. This is what happens when a chosen one begins to step into their God-written identity. Your presence itself becomes a declaration. Your energy becomes instruction. Your discernment becomes guidance. You do not have to force anything. Heaven is amplifying you. An equally powerful sign of this season is your growing intolerance for anything that dishonors your spirit. You may find it nearly impossible to shrink yourself to fit into spaces you have outgrown. You may feel a deep resistance to old behaviors, old addictions, old coping mechanisms, not because you are being disciplined, but because your spirit refuses to return to an identity it has surpassed. I remember the moment I realized I could never again live at the level I once tolerated. It wasn't pride, it was awakening. It was the moment heaven whispered, "This is not who you are anymore." You may be hearing that whisper now. It is not meant to intimidate you. It is meant to free you. Tutton. Tutton. Everything within you is rising because heaven is preparing to reveal the reason for your marking. You are no longer in the dark. You are no longer wandering. You are no longer searching blindly. You are being positioned. You are being clarified. You are being set apart in ways your spirit understands, even if your mind cannot fully articulate it yet. And in the final part, you will understand fully what heaven preserved for 2026, and why your story could only be unlocked now. Chosen one. We have reached the final stretch of this unfolding, the point where everything you have felt, sensed, questioned, and carried begins to converge into a single truth. This is the moment. Heaven has been preparing you for the moment when the hidden storyline of your life begins to reveal its purpose openly. You may not realize it yet, but you are standing inside a prophetic turning point. The shifts you have felt in your spirit, the clarity that has been rising within you, the sudden alignment of signs, dreams, and inner awakenings, these have all been leading you to this precise hour. I remember standing at a similar threshold where it felt like life itself was inhaling before exhaling something entirely new over me. That same breath is resting over your timeline now. Something long sealed is opening. You may have sensed recently that you are outgrowing your old battles, not because they suddenly vanished, but because you have risen above the frequency they operate in. You may have noticed that pain which once pierced you now barely grazes your spirit. This is not numbness, it is elevation. When heaven prepares a chosen vessel to step into their ordained season, the spirit matures faster than the circumstances. You are being grown into the version of yourself capable of carrying what is coming. I lived through a season where my tears dried without my understanding why. Later, I realized it was because heaven had strengthened me for what I was about to receive. You may be feeling that same supernatural strengthening now. Chosen one. This final phase of your activation is marked by an unusual sense of inner authority. You may notice that your yes has become more powerful and your no has become more final. You may feel less inclined to explain yourself, justify your intuition, or seek validation from those who cannot see what heaven is doing within you. This is because your spirit is stepping into alignment with your divine identity. When heaven calls a chosen one into purpose, explanation becomes unnecessary. Truth speaks through presence, not performance. I have walked into rooms where I said nothing yet everything shifted. That shift came from alignment, not effort. You are entering that same level of spiritual weight. Another unmistakable sign that your prophetic scroll is opening is the way your future feels nearer than ever before. Even if you cannot articulate the details, you can feel the acceleration. You can sense the momentum. You can feel the quiet certainty that something is about to break through. This certainty is not wishful thinking. It is your spirit recognizing the nearness of what heaven has prepared. I remember waking up one morning with the unshakable feeling that something was about to change, and within days, everything did. That feeling is a spiritual countdown, a signal that the veil is about to lift. You may be feeling that countdown within you now. And now, chosen one, we come to the revelation. Heaven has been building you toward the reason 2026 has been highlighted in your spirit. The reason signs from unexpected places. Yes, even cartoons and cultural symbols have whispered to you with unusual precision. Heaven preserved something for this specific year in your timeline. Not earlier, because you were not ready. Not later, because the world would not be aligned. This is the year heaven marked for your unveiling, the year your hidden prophecy begins to manifest, the year. The codes planted long ago start revealing their meaning. You have walked through refinement, awakening, pruning, alignment, and elevation to reach this point. None of it was random. All of it was preparation. Chosen one. The reason your spirit has been trembling in recent days is because your destiny is not approaching, it is arriving. The reason your discernment has sharpened is because you will need it for what is unfolding. The reason your heart has been rearranged is because heaven is positioning you to receive what was written with your name on it before time began. You are stepping into the year where the prophecy over your life becomes visible, not metaphorically, literally. Heaven did not bring you this far to hand you symbolism. Heaven brought you here to hand you manifestation. You have felt it, you have sensed it, and now you are ready to walk in it. Chosen one, your 2026 destiny is no longer hidden. It is here. Chosen one. As we close this message, let your spirit receive what heaven has already begun. You are standing in your appointed hour, the very kairos moment, written into your scroll before time breathed your name. What was hidden is opening. What was sealed is loosening. Your 2026 prophecy is not approaching, it is unfolding beneath your feet even now. Walk with reverence. Walk with readiness. Walk with the certainty that heaven has aligned this season for your rising. I declare clarity over your steps, strength over your body, and fire over your assignment. May your days testify that destiny has awakened and your path is guided by the one who authored it. Stay faithful, stay aligned, and stay expectant for the next unveiling. And if this word marked you chosen one, share it so another sealed scroll may open.